Well, good morning, scholars. I am Mr. Jackson, and today the title of my message is You Can Change the World. You can change the world. I want everybody to say that. I can change
America.
the world. I can change the world. Now, guys, listen up. There should be no talking or laughing. This is serious. Over there, I see y'all. Who's off? For my brief message this morning, I'm just going to share 3 points. And as I'm sharing 3 points, I'm going to be talking about 3 individuals. And here's the thing, young people, I want you to listen to me. Information plus application equals transformation. I'm going to say that one more time. Information plus application equals transformation. All the information in life that you receive here at school and from people who are pouring into you, positive things into you, take that information and apply it to your life and watch the transformation. The first point that I want to talk about today is recognize the power of a moment. Recognize the power of a moment. Everybody that you know who are successful in life and people that you see who are doing amazing things, there was a moment in their life that altered everything. There was a moment where they met somebody, where they made a connection that changed their future. And one person, and I want you to listen to me, guys, is that a lot of you look at TV, a lot of you talk to successful people, and in your mind you're thinking, man, how are they doing that? How did they get to that point where they're being very successful? Well, you know what? They recognized the power of the moment and they took advantage of it. One of my favorite movies is what's that movie with Robin Williams, Dead Poets Society. And he has a saying that says, Carpe diem, seize the day. Carpe diem, seize the day. And so the person that I want to talk about as you think about seize the power of a moment is a person by the name of Spike Lee. You know, we're thinking about Black history. You might have heard the name Spike Lee. Okay, so Spike Lee is a famous director from Brooklyn, New York, okay? And he's made a lot of great movies. Malcolm X, one of them being School Days, that talks about historically black colleges and so many other movies. And the story goes about Spike Lee. And when I heard the story, I said, man, this story is like similar to a lot of people. So when he was in college, Spike Lee went to Morehouse College, which is an historically black college in Atlanta, Georgia. And just real quick, so when you guys start thinking about college and HBCUs, in Atlanta, they have this thing called the Atlanta University Center. And so you have schools that consist of Spelman College, you have Clark Atlanta University, you have Morris Brown College, and you have you need to be respectful. And you have Clark Atlanta, those 4 schools. So I actually attended Morris Brown College for 2 years, came back home, went to Indiana State. But let me get back to my story. So Spike Lee went to Morehouse College. Now listen to me, the power of a moment. Went to Morehouse College. He was not a great student. He did not make good grades. And so he was meeting with his advisor, and his advisor says, Mr. Lee, you have exhausted all electives. Meaning he avoided choosing a major. He says, you have to choose a major. He says, well, I don't know what to do. He says, okay, go home for the summer and think about it. So Spike Lee went home for the summer, was just kind of, playing around, but didn't really focus, didn't have anything to do. And he says, you know what, I had a friend that summer. She was a very smart student. She was a famous doctor in Chicago now. She's going to medical school. And so he said, I went over to her house and we were talking, and I said, there was a box over in the corner. And he said, well, what's that box? And his friend said, oh, silly, that's just some old film and a camera. I'm gonna throw that in the garbage. You can have it. Power of a moment. So Spike Lee took that camera and filmed that his friend was gonna throw away. That all summer long, he just filmed stuff. Got back to Morehouse the college that fall and declared a major, radio, TV, film, and ended up becoming one of the most successful directors that we know today. Power over moment. What would have happened had he never gone to his friend's house that day? What would have happened had he never had that conversation? So young people, as you think about the relationships and people that you know in your life, be aware of those moments that can alter your future. Okay? My second point, never lose sight of the gift that you have regardless of what people think or say about you. Has anybody ever been made fun of or talked about because of a gift or something that you like to do?
Yes.
Okay. I know I have. So my first point was what? Recognize what? The power of a moment. My point two was what? Never lose sight of the gift that you have regardless of what people think about you. So you're thinking about changing the world, you have to recognize a moment and discover your passion. You're thinking about changing the world, you have to believe in yourself regardless of what people say about you. So the second person I'm going to talk about is Tony Hawk. Everybody ever heard of Tony Hawk?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So cool thing. I used to skateboard for 6 years, okay? And during the summer of 1994, what skateboard companies would do, they would go to like different cities and they would do demos. So they would have the team of the professional skateboarders and they would do like a demonstration. So they would do a demonstration for the skateboarders and everybody that would come. So this particular summer of 1994, Tony Hawk and his team Birdhouse came to a skate shop in Indianapolis, Indiana and did a demo. And of course, everybody's in awe. I'm in awe because I'm like, he's the Michael Jordan of skateboarding. I have posters on my wall. Here's the reason why skateboarding is in the Olympic Games and the way it's a very famous sport now. And so I was sitting outside with a friend, thinking about the power of a moment. And Tony Hawk comes out with another professional skateboarder named Ocean Howe. Now these are like guys to me in skateboarding. And so he's like, this is before GPS, he's like, hey, can somebody show us to the store? He's like, me and so again, we will. So guys, I'm riding in this tour van with all the skateboarder gear and equipment, and Tony Hawk is driving, and we're showing him to the gas station. And I'm talking to him like, man, like, how did you become a pro skater and this and that? And so fast forward years, this October, I watched a documentary about when the wheels fall off, talking about Tony Hawk. And he says, you know what? My brother had this old beat up skateboard and I found it. And I started riding. And people made fun of him because he was skinny, he was kind of lanky, he wasn't really good at sports. The way he did his tricks, people talked about him. And they talked about him, and they dogged him. Do me a favor, guys, I want you to stand up, go sit in the back for me. Go sit in the back. Stand up. Come on, stand up. All right. So I'm gonna call you out. Okay, so, and in this documentary, people talked about him. People made fun of him. And you know what Tony Hawk did? Like, that I want you to do? Regardless of what people say about you, keep pursuing your dream and your passion. Keep doing what you're gonna do, regardless of what people make fun of. And Tony Hawk even went through a phase in his career where skateboarding took a downturn. He even talked about how, like, I had to get help paying my water bill. This is all in the documentary. But then fast forward, like, to the games and stuff, he said, I remember having lunch with a gentleman who was over one of the games I was putting out, and he said, here, this is a gift for you because the game that we made is doing real good. It was a check for $4 million. He believed and never gave up on what he was passionate about. And now look at him. And now look at skateboarding. And so my last point is, never lose sight of the gift regardless of how difficult it gets. there will be difficult moments, okay? How many of you have ever gone through any struggles in life or any difficult moments? Raise your hand, okay. All right. So my last point that I'm gonna talk about is a gentleman by the name of Kenny Edmonds. Anybody ever heard of Kenny Edmonds? Nope. Or Babyface? Okay, hold up, listen up. Listen up, guy. Somebody told me one day, Mr. Jackson, if you want to be successful, read about successful people. So guys, I encourage you, read autobiographies about successful people. I've read Malcolm X's autobiography. I've read Mandela's autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. I've read books about Common, so many books. Because guys, if you want to be successful, you got to have a blueprint. You got to have a blueprint. And so the interesting thing about Babyface, when you're thinking about changing the world, when you're thinking about coming into your purpose and passion, you know what? I said I wanted to end my message today with someone who's from here, Indianapolis, Indiana. Babyface went to my high school. I graduated with his nephew, Jason Evans. And the interesting thing about Babyface is that he grew up on this street called Riviera, right off of Michigan Road, 71st and Michigan Road. And he was watching, he played the guitar, people made fun of him, and, he sung songs, and people didn't think he was, they thought he was real good, but he kept doing it. He said he was watching The Tonight Show, and Aretha Franklin was on there. Everybody heard of Aretha Franklin? Yeah. Okay. He said, one day I'm gonna write songs and I'm gonna produce for her. And lo and behold, he did that. But as he shared his story, he said, you know what? There were times where I thought we were gonna get a record deal and it was gonna make it, and they said, no, you're not good enough. There were times where he had to, struggle and try to make it, but he said, you know what? You're not good enough. And then once again, one chance many. What did I talk about, the power of a moment? Does anybody remember what I talked about, the power of a moment? Yes. What did I say? The power of a moment. Anybody remember? Remember it. Say what? Okay. So I'm gonna close it out with this last point. So there was a gentleman who he knew. He said, "Hey, I want to be in this group called The Deal. They're from Cincinnati. All the old school people in here know what I'm talking about." So one of the gentlemen in the band called The Deal, named L.A. Reid, Antonio Reid, says, "I don't think Babyface is good enough. He doesn't have the look. I don't want him in my group." And he was hurt. Lo and behold, in a studio session, he had wrote a song for another person. He was singing. L.A. Reid comes by the studio. He says, "Who's that singing in that booth?" "That's Kenneth Edmonds, the person that you turned down, the person that you laughed at." And so what's my point today as I close my message? You can change the world. Guys, what I want you to do this week, I want you to look at a map of the world when you go home. Just Google it. Just look at a map. You can touch any part of the world, from Japan to Australia, to Los Angeles, to New York, right here in your community in Indianapolis, to Canada. You can. Nobody's telling you that you can't. But I'm gonna hold up something. What am I holding up? Keys. Keys represent access to things. I have access to my office, to my house, to my 2 cars, to my gym. Why? I have a master's degree. I can have this job if I didn't have a master's degree. I have access to my house because I have income. I can pay my mortgage. Your education gives you access. Your education represents these keys. So your education is the key into the world. I don't care where you come from, your home life, I don't care what community. If you decide, hey, I want to be a lawyer and I want to work in Australia, you can. I want to be a music producer and I want to produce songs for the next Beyonce and live in Los Angeles, you can. I want to be a college professor at Yale or Harvard, you know what, you can. But you have to believe in yourself, recognize the power of the moment, and no matter how difficult it gets, keep pushing. Thank you.